Jets-Jags, a little different in the mold that could be the Super Bowl preview of Bills-Lions. These two teams are closer to picking number one in the draft, but not a lot of defense in this game, Jay. Aaron Rodgers, one of his best games of the season, 289 yards, 3 touchdowns. He also had 45 rushing yards. It was kind of turned back the clock day for Rodgers, not only with his rushing, but that Davante Adams had almost 200 receiving yards.
How have you and producer Steven, Jags fan, conspired to put Jags-Jets as the second game on the rundown?
It's a little weird. It's a little weird when you think about some of the massive fantasy performances, some of the massive fantasy disappointments. But just so you know, Connor, of course, is a diehard Jets fan. He does the pre- and post-game for SNY on the Jets. He hosts the second-best Jets podcast out there in Badlands. Not as good as Worse Lands. That's what Lauren Jackson and I, that's our Jets podcast. But anyway, he's the host of Badlands as well. And then, of course, producer Steven, sad trombone. He is a Jaguars fan.
Hey.
He also loves his Orlando Magic.
Yes. They didn't even cover yesterday, the Jags. Looks like they were going to get the +3.5 home, and they didn't because the Jets strangely ran in the touchdown at the end. So probably kneel that one.
Maybe they had something on the game.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah, true.
I find it interesting.
Why would you want the number one pick? Why would you want the number one pick?
It's not like the Heisman Trophy winner is deserving of being the number one pick.
Yeah.
Travis Hunter.
That's all right. We can segue from Josh Allen and Jared Goff to Brenton Strange, who goes 11-12.
It's funny listening to the tones of both of you.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know that this game included 2 of the top 5 wide receivers in the fantasy playoffs.
Look, on Fantasy Football pregame yesterday, one of my shot-for-shots was 75 yards and a touchdown for Davante Adams. He was on the love list this week, and obviously he produces in a massive way as well. 43% target share. Since week 9, he's the third best wide receiver in fantasy. Find somebody that looks at you the way Aaron Rodgers looks at Davante Adams. I hear they're opening up another Taco Bell in his house. That's how good he was.
After a day like this?
Yeah,
why
sure.
not?
Yep. And he wasn't quite outdone by Brian Thomas. Brian Thomas did his best effort. Brian Thomas next year is going to be a second-round pick, like at this point?
I think he should be.
Talent-wise, he should be. It's just, what does this offense look like? Who's the coach?
Still trying to be Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, and that's what's crazy is he's producing this with Mac Jones and Trevor Lawrence. He's unbelievable, and I think I said this on Fantasy Football Pregame. I've said this multiple times. I apologize, but like that again, I talk about the fact that that's how good Jaden Daniels is because he had to take a downgrade from college. He was thrown to Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas at LSU his senior year.
Both guys had 1,000 yards. I mean, Brian Thomas was a top 12 player for me in last year's draft, and the Jags are kind of reaping the benefits of him falling. And guys, yesterday it was great to see them even throw him screens. You think of him being this deep threat only guy, but no, he's just an alpha wide receiver in this offense, Matthew.
Fourth straight game with at least 85 receiving yards. He's averaging over 20 fantasy points per game during that stretch. Since week 11, he's got a 30% target share. Now, it's been helped by a couple of things. All the injuries, Gabe Davis and Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram now out for the year. Like they're down a bunch of bodies. Also, game script has helped a lot. The Jaguars are often in negative game script, so they're throwing. All that said, the kid's unbelievably talented, and so, locked in as a fantasy starter down the stretch, even though you're like, the Jaguars and Mac Jones. They're at Las Vegas next week, so, should be a lot of fun. He's wide receiver 4 as we head into Monday Night Football. And you mentioned Brenton Strange here.
Dr.
Jay.
Strange.
Yeah.
New Evan
Strange
Ingram.
love.
The new Evan Ingram.
Yeah,
PPR
exactly.
merchant.
Yeah, Dr. Strangelove.
Yeah, no, the fact that he's able to get 12 targets, reels in 11 of them, and I think the main thing with this Jags offense is just that Mac Jones has shown a level of play in terms of being able to compile stats where he can make all these guys viable. It's not like this isn't a Tim Boyle operation. Like Mac Jones, it's not that long ago he was going head-to-head with Jamar Chase for Offensive Rookie of the Year and leading the Patriots into the playoffs as a rookie. So Mac Jones has flashed a level of play where you feel comfortable that he can get Brenton Strange and Brian Thomas the ball and allow them to produce fantasy work.
He's got 5 games this year with at least 4 targets, and in those games he's averaging over 12 fantasy points per game. That's been, inflated by a couple of touchdowns along this. But again, it's those 2 guys and like Parker Washington, they're not able to run the ball that effectively as well. And so we'll talk about it more this coming week, and I'm sure Strange will be on the waiver show tomorrow, but on the road at Las Vegas next week, you feel like they're going to be able to move the ball. Jacksonville will. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully, respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.